Sexually transmitted infections, STIs, are often thought of as a health concern mainly for younger people. However, recent data show that rates of STIs, including chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, have more than doubled among adults aged 55 and older over the past decade. This trend is particularly concerning for seniors living in assisted living and senior care facilities, where sexual activity continues, but safe sex practices may be overlooked. But the question is, why are STIs rising among older adults? According to the American Medical Association, several factors contribute to this increase. More seniors are sexually active than ever before. Nearly 40% of people aged 65 to 80 are sexually active, with many benefiting from medications like Viagra and hormone replacement therapies that improve sexual function. In addition, condom use among older adults is very low. Only about 3% of people over 60 report using condoms, often because pregnancy is no longer a concern and STI awareness is limited. There is a significant lack of knowledge about STI risks and prevention in this age group. Comprehensive sexual education was often unavailable during their youth. Assisted living and nursing home environments provide more opportunities for new sexual partners, increasing exposure risk. Age-related physical changes, such as thinning vaginal tissue after menopause, make infections more likely and harder to clear. Now, here is some more information on STIs versus STDs.
This lecture is entitled STIs versus STDs by Dr. Bev Knox. We will also review some common types of STIs and STDs, which includes 3 types: bacterial, viral, and parasitic. Bacterial examples include chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Viral examples include hepatitis B virus, herpes simplex virus 2, genital herpes, HIV, and HPV. A parasitic example is trichomoniasis. Let us begin by first defining the terms infection and disease. Infection and disease are 2 terms that are often used interchangeably, but they have distinct meanings. Understanding the difference between the 2 is crucial for effective prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. An infection refers to the invasion of harmful microorganisms, such as bacteria, viruses, or fungi, into the body. These pathogens can enter through various routes, such as the respiratory system, digestive system, or skin. Infections can be localized or systemic, and they can range from mild to severe. Disease, on the other hand, refers to the manifestation of symptoms or abnormalities that occur as a result of an infection or other causes. While infections are the cause, diseases are the effects. In simple terms, an infection is the presence of pathogens in the body, whereas a disease is the manifestation of symptoms that result from the infection. So, sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, begin as sexually transmitted infections, STIs. Infection occurs when a sexually transmitted bacteria, virus, or other microbe enters the body and begins multiplying. Once established, the infection may progress into a disease, an STD. Now, a sexually transmitted infection, STI, is an infection usually acquired through sexual activity that may or may not display symptoms and become a sexually transmitted disease. Symptoms associated with STDs vary depending on the type of infection. The onset of symptoms can take days, weeks, or even years to appear, but not everyone develops symptoms. Once symptoms are noticeable, the STI has produced a disease. Some symptoms for STIs include abnormal discharge from the penis or vagina, sores or warts in the genital or anal area, itching or redness around the sores, sores in and around the mouth, painful or burning sensation when urinating, abnormal vaginal odor, pain during sex, swollen lymph nodes in the groin. If an STI becomes an STD, symptoms can vary. Some STD symptoms may be similar to STI symptoms, but they can also be different. Sometimes it can even be more serious. Some of these symptoms include fever, fatigue, memory loss, nausea, changes to hearing and vision, and weight loss. Let us dive a little bit deeper into infection versus disease. According to Jennifer Sabor, 2024, STIs are infections caused by bacteria, viruses, or parasites. They're usually transmitted during sexual activity, through an exchange of bodily fluids or skin-to-skin contact where the infection is active. Non-sexual activities in which bodily fluids are exchanged can also transmit STIs. For example, people who share needles can infect each other with the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Some STIs can also be transmitted by kissing someone on the mouth, although this is considered to be low risk for most STIs. STDs are diseases that result from STIs. All STDs start out as infections. Pathogens, which are disease-causing organisms such as viruses and bacteria, enter the body and begin multiplying. When these pathogens disrupt normal body functions, they produce diseases. It's important to note that some STIs may never develop into diseases. For example, most human papillomavirus, HPV cases go away on their own without causing health problems. However, HPV can produce genital warts or cervical cancer, which are diseases. Unfortunately, a potential outcome of sexual activity is infection. Sexually transmitted infections, STIs, are like other transmittable infections, except STIs are primarily transmitted through social sexual behaviors. Social sexual behaviors include romantic kissing and oral, vaginal, and anal sex. Additionally, STIs can be transmitted through blood and from mother to child during pregnancy and childbirth. Again, STIs may lead to sexually transmitted diseases, STDs. Often, infections have no symptoms and do not lead to diseases. For example, the most common STI for men and women in the US is human papillomavirus, HPV. In most cases, HPV goes away on its own and has no symptoms. Only a fraction of HPV STIs develop into cervical, penile, mouth, or throat cancer. There are more than 30 different STIs. STIs differ in their primary methods of transmission, symptoms, treatments, and whether they are caused by viruses or bacteria. Some of the most common STIs are genital herpes, 500 million, HPV, 290 million, trichomoniasis, 143 million, chlamydia, 131 million, gonorrhea, 78 million, human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, 36 million, and syphilis, 6 million. Medical testing to determine whether someone has an STI is relatively simple and most often free. Further, there are vaccines or treatments for all STIs, and many STIs are curable. However, without seeking treatment, all STIs have potential negative health effects, including death from some. For example, if untreated, HIV often leads to the STD, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, AIDS. Over 1 million people die every year from AIDS. Unfortunately, many, if not most people with STIs never get tested or treated. For example, as many as 30% of those with HIV and 90% of those with genital herpes are unaware of having an STI. Sex education is a critical tool in the fight against sexually transmitted infections. It is impossible to contract an STI from a person who does not have an STI. This may seem like an obvious statement, but a recent study asked 596 freshman and sophomore-level college students the following true-false question. A person can get AIDS by having anal, rectal intercourse even if neither partner is infected with the AIDS virus, and found that 33% of them answered true. Only open, honest, and comprehensive education about human sexuality can fight these STI stereotypes. To be clear, anal sex is associated with STIs, but it cannot cause an STI. Specifically, anal sex, when compared to vaginal sex, the second most likely method of transmission, oral sex, third most likely, and romantic kissing, fourth most likely, is associated with the greatest risk of transmitting and contracting STIs because the tissue lining of the rectum is relatively thin and apt to tear and bleed, thereby passing on the infection. A sexually active person's chance of getting an STI depends on a variety of factors. Two of these are age and access to sex education. Young people between the ages of 15 and 24 account for more than 50% of all new STIs, even though they account for only about 25% of the sexually active population. Generally, young males and females are equally susceptible to getting an STI. However, females are much more likely to suffer long-term health consequences of an STI. For example, each year in the US, undiagnosed STDs cause about 24,000 females to become infertile. Limited access to comprehensive sex education is also a major contributing factor toward the risk of contracting an STI. Unfortunately, some sex education is limited to the promotion of abstinence and relies heavily on virginity pledges. A virginity pledge is a commitment to refrain from sexual intercourse until marriage. Although virginity pledges fit well with some cultural and religious worldviews, they are only effective if people, in fact, remain abstinent. Interestingly, senior citizens are one of the fastest-growing segments of the European and U.S. populations being diagnosed with STIs. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report a steady increase in people over 65 being diagnosed with HIV. Since 2007, incidence of syphilis among seniors is up by 52%, and chlamydia is up by 32%. And from 2010 to 2014, there was a 38% increase in STI diagnoses in people between the ages of 50 and 70. Why is this happening? Well, bear in mind, seniors are not necessarily more sexually knowledgeable than adolescents. They may have no greater access to comprehensive sex education than younger people. Even so, medical advances allow seniors to continue to be sexually active at later points in their lifespan, and to make the same mistakes adolescents make about safer sex. Now, let us review the issue of safer sex. STIs are 100% preventable. Simply don't engage in social sexual behaviors. But if you choose to have sex, safer sex practices are recommended. This includes communication, honesty, and barrier methods. Safer sex practices always begin with communication. Before engaging in sexual behaviors with a partner, a clear, honest, and explicit understanding of your boundaries, as well as your partner's, should be established. Safer sex involves discussing and using barriers such as male condoms, female condoms, or dental dams, relative to your specific sexual behaviors. Also, keep in mind, although safer sex may use some of the same tools as birth control, safer sex is not birth control. Birth control focuses on reproduction. Safer sex focuses on well-being. A proactive approach to behaving sexually may at first seem burdensome, but it can be easily reimagined as foreplay, is associated with greater sexual satisfaction, increases the probability of orgasm, and addresses fears people have during sex. A very important question is how and where to get tested. Your healthcare provider, doctor, local clinic, or hospital may use some or all of the following tests to determine the type of STI you have, if any. These tests include a physical exam. Your healthcare provider will do a physical or pelvic examination, looking for signs of infection. Blood tests. A blood sample will be collected, either a blood draw or finger prick, to diagnose certain infections like syphilis or HIV. Urine tests. This may be done for gonorrhea and chlamydia. During the test, you'll provide a sample of urine in a sterile cup as instructed by your healthcare provider. Fluid samples. These can be taken from the vagina or penis to be examined under a microscope for organisms like the parasite that causes trichomoniasis. Swab tests. During this test, your healthcare provider will use a special swab to take a sample from the site of the infection. Swab tests are used to diagnose HPV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and herpes. Now, let us review the treatment options for STDs and STIs. The diagnosis of an infection is crucial for effective treatment. Again, doctors may use a variety of methods, including physical examinations, laboratory tests, and imaging techniques to identify the cause of the infection and determine the most appropriate treatment plan. Treatment options for infections vary depending on the type and severity of the infection. Bacterial infections are commonly treated with antibiotics, while antiviral medications are used for viral infections. Antifungal medications are prescribed for fungal infections, and antiparasitic drugs are used for infections caused by parasites. Again, antibiotics, medicines used to fight bacterial infections, can treat and cure STIs and STDs caused by bacteria and parasites, but they can't cure viral infections. And STIs caused by viruses are usually treated with oral antiviral or antiretroviral medications. Most viral STIs can be managed but don't have a known cure. Again, the diagnosis of an infection is crucial for effective treatment. Doctors may use a variety of methods, including physical examinations, laboratory tests, and imaging techniques to identify the cause of the infection and determine the most appropriate treatment plan. Please be advised, this is an educational, academically sound psychology course by Dr. Bev Knox for adult student learners. Lecture content include discussions and representations of human sexuality, theoretical perspectives on sexuality, sex research, sexual anatomy, sex hormones, sexual arousal, attraction and love theories, gender and sexuality, sexual orientation, variations in sexual behavior, sexual coercion, sex for sale, sexual disorders, and sex therapy, ethics and religion on sexuality, and sex laws. Before beginning the course, please be mindful of your capacity to witness and respond to videos, books, and images of this content material.